Hello, everyone, and many thanks for joining today's stream. Today is, of course, 4th of September. Now it's 11 o'clock in the morning, Moscow time, and as always, I have prepared quite a number of news on some major developments. Very interesting, important news, sir, in my opinion. And hopefully, you will find the episode informative and useful. And if so, dear friends, please like their video and leave some commentary. It might help to deal with the tremendously aggressive algorithm that killing my channel, man. Especially on YouTube. Anyways, dear friends, as always, after news segment, I will join community chatter for a little while. If you want to support my work, all the links are on this video in description box in the pinned comment. During the stream, you can use super chat feature on Rumble. This way you can help me to maintain project and also highlight any question or topic that you might have. And that's been said, let's start the news segment itself, dear friends. Yesterday, during the second stream, yesterday evening, I shared information about press conference that Russian president had in Beijing. I give you now just some. I would not go into those videos that I shared yesterday, but I give you some statements that Russian president made during this press conference. So RIA Novosti is reporting that Vladimir Putin, speaking to journalists following his visit to China, spoke about the conflict in Ukraine and their ways to resolve it. Among other things, the president spoke about the possibility of meeting with Vladimir Zelensky, resolving territorial issues, and the advancement of the Russian troops in their special operation zone. And some key points from statements of Russian president on the possible meeting with Zelensky. Putin said that if Zelensky is ready for the meeting, let him come to Moscow. Putin informed Donald Trump about the possibility of the meeting with the head of the Kiev regime. He called Zelensky the current head of the administration of Ukraine. Russian president went in quite a length to explain why there is some issues with the legitimacy of Zelensky. If you are interested to that statement necessarily, as I said, check out my yesterday's live stream, dear friends. I shared quite a few short videos from that press conference. What else about the security guarantees? Russian president stated that each country has the right to choose its own security system, including Ukraine, but this cannot be done at the expense of Russia. Moscow never raised the question that Kiev could receive such guarantees in exchange for territories. Territorial issues can be resolved in Ukraine through referendum, but for this, martial law must be lifted, Russian president said. Also, the opinion of people who decide to live as a part of Russia must be respected. This is democracy that Western ruling class loves to talk about. Russia has always objected to Ukraine's membership in NATO, but has not questioned its membership in the EU. But yes, and this is true, by the way, but nowadays EU is no any less hostile to Russia as an organization or quasi-state that pretend to be than NATO. So therefore, I guess soon Russian take on EU membership of this so-called Ukraine will change. Just guessing on that. On attempts at the peaceful settlement, Russian president said all attempts by Moscow to resolve the Ukrainian issue peacefully were derailed. Back in 2022, Russia proposed to the Ukrainian authorities to withdraw troops from southeast and finish the conflict. This proposal were not rejected by Kiev at the time. After we, at the insisted calls of our Western European colleagues, withdraw our troops from Kiev, situation immediately changed, and we were told almost verbatim the following: now we will fight until either you turn our head off or we turn you off. This is quote from Putin's statement. Those who completely ignore Russia's security interests are to be blamed for the tragedy in Ukraine. Moscow has repeatedly offered Kiev peaceful means of ending the conflict, but these offers always were ignored and will be ignored, by the way. Russia has to neutralize this Western-backed terrorist regime of Zelensky, and Russia has to force globalist control regimes all over their collective West to capitulate. That's the way things gonna go, by the way. I'm quite sure about it. But anyways, Russian president then went to say that if such a settlement is impossible, Moscow will have to solve their assigned tasks by armed means, and that's exactly what is going to happen. It seems to me, however, that if common sense does prevail, then it will be possible to agree on acceptable option of ending this conflict, and that is what I'm proceeding from. And well, Russian president is too optimistic. There are common sense and Western so-called elites. These two don't live together, by the way, in same universe, right? So therefore, this is completely impossible, of course, although one may have a hope for that. Putin is pleased with the work of Vladimir Medinsky as the head of the negotiating group with Ukraine. He called the work an example of restraint and professional approach. U.S. Special Representative for Ukraine, Steve Witkoff, is being criticized by those who don't like his and Trump's approach to resolving the situation in Ukraine through peaceful means. And well, I have to disagree here on to Russian president. I think he is just not just too optimistic, but he's mistaken. I have enough reasons to believe that U.S. President Donald Trump, his administration, including his special envoy Steve Witkoff, are engaged with Russia in very same operation that they did, or similar operation that they did with Iran, and that is deception. Today, by the way, just a few hours ago, reports came in that changes pretty much everything, and I will explain that in a few minutes' time. So therefore, I think Russian president either not telling complete, not painting complete picture there, and is just too polite, or I don't know, or he's just mistaken. I hope it's not the second scenario, because we don't want to be caught off guard as Iran was during those strikes that Israel, with assistance of US, conducted on Iran, right, during the 12-day war. Also, Russian president said we see the mood of the current US administration under the leadership of President Trump. We see not just their calls, but sincere desire to find this solution. No, man, I'm not on the same page with Putin on that. Trump is lying. Trump's administration is engaged in deception, 100%, but million percent, by the way. On the successes of Russian armed forces, Russian president stated that Russian Russian forces in the zone of special military operation are advancing in all directions. This is true. They, in their overwhelming majority, I want to emphasize, are in favor of Russia achieving all of its goals outlined at the beginning of the special military operation. Whole Russia, by the way, not just Russian armed forces, but whole of Russia, vast majority of society wants all their goals of the special military operation to be achieved, because nobody wants next generations to have to fight this fight too, right? So it's better if we will finish what our globalists and their neocons and Russian enemies basically have started, right? So yes, some of the key statements there from a Russian president. He mentioned that Zelensky can come to Moscow if he is ready for meaningful talks. Of course, this is not going to happen. The Russian president also spoke about topic of Russian frozen assets in the West. That West should not steal those assets, but no one is listening in the West, by the way. And we have today this report that London sent Kiev another £1 billion in revenues from frozen Russian assets, which is Russian assets too, by the way, right? So that's the answer on Russian president's yesterday's call, or the warning, right, towards his Western colleagues. Meanwhile, yesterday Trump was making a lot of headlines too. He had a meeting with the Polish president in White House, and well, let's go through some of the statements that he made. Trump said he wanted to arrange a meeting between Putin and Zelensky, and dear friends, before news broke this morning about very important stuff, I was thinking that actually, trilateral meeting might happen. Maybe Moscow and Washington even had some talks behind the closed doors to arrange such a trilateral meeting. That's why maybe Russian president yesterday during that press conference in Beijing once again invite Zelensky to come to Moscow, right? Trump also yesterday, by the way, spoke about such a meeting, that he want that meeting to happen, but then he went to say that neither Putin, neither Zelensky are ready for it for now, whatever that means, by the way. Russian president clearly is ready. He's offering, right, to Zelensky opportunity, but Kiev is not listening, and it's not just Kiev, by the way. Globalist control regimes in the West are not listening. And then, by the way, Trump went to say that he will speak to Putin in a few days' time, and later on, White House rebooked this. Lisa, please stop. Wow, this I have to turn off this stuff, man. What the hell? This is this AI, by the way, right? Anyways, so where I was. White House clarifies that Trump was referring to plans to call Zelensky, not Putin, and such a phone conversation between Trump and Zelensky is scheduled for today, for 4th of September. I guess Trump will join a meeting of a coalition of the willing via video link or something, right? Or after that meeting, he will have a conversation with Zelensky. Today, dear friends, this coalition of willing enemies of Russia basically will gather in Paris, right, in France, and Zelensky is going to be there. He is already in France, right? So there is no plans in White House to arrange a phone conversation between Trump and Putin. And then Trump was asked by journalists if he has any message for Russian president, and let me give you a short video about his answer. By the way, and where is that? That's it.
To President Putin, he knows where I stand, and he'll make a decision one way or the other. Whatever his decision is, we'll either be happy about it or unhappy, and if we're unhappy about it, you'll see things happen.
So that's it, by the way. Trump threatened again. You will see things happen. He is engaged in deception, by the way, 100%. And I really hope Russian side will stop playing these games, man. I know, but many of us, by the way, here in Russia, and I guess worldwide, actually really wants this war to end, right? As soon as possible. But unfortunately, we don't really have much option but to continue military operation and to force Western ruling class and their proxy regime in Kiev to capitulate. And this is absolutely inevitable, because look what information I have for you, dear friends. And this is, I will say, changes everything. RIA Novosti today reported, and many other media outlets, by the way, about information that was released by Russian Foreign Intelligence Service about Taurus missiles, German-made Taurus missiles that were actually delivered to Kiev-controlled territory. And this changes everything, right? Clearly, once I see this news, by the way, it has become absolutely clear for me that Trump, Witkoff, everybody from U.S. administration are doing exactly the same as they did with Iran. They are engaged, they are using diplomacy as a tool of deception. They want to mislead Russian leadership and cut off guard Russia when they will orchestrate a large-scale, unprecedented scale attack on Russia. Terrorist attacks all over the Russian Federation, long-range strikes all over the Russian Federation, and God knows what else. These sickening animals that are in charge of collective West have in plans, right? So yes, there will be no de-escalation, unfortunately, by the way. We are about to witness unprecedented scale of escalation, as I was predicting, by the way, since forever, I guess. Even though I was maintaining this cautious optimism, but nevertheless, indicators were quite telling that we are heading towards the escalation. And this news, to me personally, is a last drop. Last drop. There is no way, by the way, we're going to see the escalation until we will force these dirty animals in charge of collective West to capitulate. So, report is the German Chancellor Friedrich Merz has given orders to conceal involvement in a supply of Taurus missiles to Ukraine. The Foreign Intelligence Service press office reported today. So these missiles already being delivered, by the way, and continues to be delivered, right? Because that's what Foreign Intelligence Service is saying. The German Chancellor, Friedrich Merz, issued an order to its militaries and whoever is engaged in this process of deliveries of these Taurus missiles to do it in a secretive manner as possible, right? According to SVR, factory markings are being removed from the missile components and their individual parts are being replaced. In case when you cannot remove factory markings, entire parts were removed, done probably new ones, right? Replaced by new ones without any markings at all. So this is clearly last drop, by the way. This is last drop. To me personally, we should get ready. We should get ready for massive assault. I mean Russians, by the way. We should get ready for a massive assault on Russia. That is going to happen in very short time, by the way. In very short time, there is no chances on the escalation, and I hope Russian president and Russian leadership in general knows that they've been lied by Trump, by Witkoff, by everybody from U.S. administration. They are not seeking no de-escalation. They are just misinforming Russian side. They are using diplomacy as a deception tool, and they did it with Iran, right? This is nothing that they have not done before. And quite often I see questions in the comment section why Russia is not deploying Oreshnik missiles, and now we know answer. There is no point to deploy Oreshnik missiles, many of them at least, on a Kiev-controlled territory. I think Russian leadership knows perfectly well what games being played by Trump and others from the collective West, right? And the Russian side is preparing for inevitable retaliation that will come on those countries that will be engaged directly in incoming large-scale, unprecedented scale assault and attack on Russia. That will be orchestrated by globalists and neocons and regimes that they control over the collective West, from US and UK to France, Germany, and others. Those Oreshnik missiles will be very handy to eliminate military assets and military industrial assets of US, UK, France, Germany, and others that will be engaged in this proxy war, and better be prepared, by the way, for most unprecedented scale of escalation in this world ever. Right, we are a step away from a possible extinction level event, because these missiles Germany is deploying for a purpose, right? These Taurus long-range missiles, by the way. I remind you that just a week ago there was a report that U.S. authorized transfer of thousands and thousands of cruise missiles to a key regime, right? Also, lately there are quite a number of entire narrative has been created by Western propaganda about these false capabilities of key regime, that how they are capable of doing or building long-range weapon systems and this and that. This is all a false narrative. Of course, all the long-range weapon systems that will be used against Russia is Western weapon systems and will be deployed by Western with the direct engagement of Western intelligence services and Western militaries. And by the way, it's not just long-range missile and drone strikes that we should expect. I mean, Russians. It's a terrorist attack all over the Russian Federation, Western secret services, US CIA, British MI6, French, German intelligence services, also Mossad, by the way, fascist Israeli secret service will use whatever assets they have on the Russian territory, most of it, maybe not all of it, but most of it, to do some large-scale sabotage and terrorist attacks inside the Russia, to create and their goal is to create absolute chaos, right? That's their goal. And usually they are going for decapitate strikes, right? When they are attacking countries, collective Western, they first thing they do, they are going after leadership of that country, political, military, and so on, right? So we should be ready, because very big escalation is coming, very big escalation, and all talks about negotiations should end at this point. I'm not going to take seriously nothing that will be published in media about negotiations. It's all BS, by the way, and fake news, because West is not about the escalation, and US, by the way, US administration is not about the escalation. I had a cautious optimism that maybe America First forces actually are in charge in Washington, but no, man, they are not. They are not. Trump is an Israeli slut and slut of globalists, period. And the entire administration of US is an Israeli slut and a slut of globalists and their neocons, period, by the way. America First forces, America First people have no say in US politics. Absolutely not. There is nothing even to discuss there, right? And everyone, all of us who were cautiously optimistic, well, we should get rid of this fake optimism or false optimism, because it can be destructive. We should stay strong on the ground and be absolutely realistic. And it is, and when you do that, it is becoming clear that unprecedented scale of escalation is about to happen. And well, no one, by the way, in the collective West should blame Russia for what about is to happen to them, right? To their countries, to their militaries, to their military industrial complex. Russia will retaliate, and retaliate very strong. And I guess, I hope, I cannot know for sure where Kremlin is standing, but I want to believe that Russian president, after all, he himself worked in intelligence service, right? And hopefully he is listening to his intelligence services, or Russian intelligence services, as we are among them, right? And understands that Trump is just messing around there. He is engaged in deception operation, and Russia should be ready to take a retaliatory strike immediately once NATO will escalate with Russia. And we should strike, by the way, everybody. We should strike US military assets, we should strike German military assets, and also military industrial complex, either with conventional weapons or with nuclear weapons. It's up to militaries to decide, right? Russia has a conventional means and also nuclear means, right? So it's up to militaries to decide how to retaliate, with what force, but we definitely have enough weapons and inventory in our disposal to take decisive action, right? And to teach the lesson to these freaking morons, by the way, that are in charge of collective West. And this is going to happen. If US leadership, British leadership, French leadership, German leadership, Italian leadership, if all of them, by the way, if everybody who is engaged in this proxy war against Russia thinking that they can mess around Russia with impunity, they can kill Russian citizens with impunity, harm Russia with impunity, they are mistaken. And they are about to find out hard way. That's it. Meanwhile, West continues to be engaged in this deception operation, by the way. It's not just Trump, of course, but other so-called leaders in the West too. And for example, British leadership sort of come up with a scenario that will allow Kiev to avoid defeat, psychos, by the way, scenario of a temporary freeze of the Ukrainian conflict. And by the way, I have a question in a headline, isn't it? Trilateral meeting between Putin, Trump, and Zelensky. Well, there will be no trilateral meeting. Absolutely not. Impossible. So yes, UK has named scenario that will allow Kiev to avoid the defeat. The scenario of the temporary freeze of the Ukrainian conflict following the Korean model could help Kiev in the future to recapture lost territories, right? British newspaper Telegraph call it a Korean freeze with the German ending, a pause that Jew rejects recognition of lost territories, provides reliable security guarantees now, and strengthened Ukraine's ability to eventually revise their outcome, the article says. And by the way, you see, they are not even hiding that they are all about war, by the way. All they wanted at least, and maybe still want, is a temporary pause so that they will rearm, reorganize their proxy regime in Kiev, their militaries, and then will reignite war again. And of course, Moscow will not allow this to happen, and there will be no Korean scenario, by the way. Russia will liberate all Russian territories. End of story. Russia will liberate all Russian territories, from Kharkov to Odessa, also Poltava region, also Kiev, surrounding Kiev region, by the way, Sumy, Chernigov, everything will be liberated, by the way. Western Ukraine, we don't give a fuck about it, right? Let the Poles deal with Ukrainian Nazis and the fascists and the terrorists there, right? Let the Poles deal with them. They love them, they support them with their weapons, money, and so on. So let the Polish militaries now find out how it is, right, to fight with those Nazis. If they are ready for that. I don't think they are, but anyways, right? Western Ukraine, we don't give a fuck about, but rest of their territory of this former Soviet Union is a Russian land and will be Russian land always. End of story. There are going to be no Korean scenarios, by the way. No one should dream about it, right? Also, Zelensky, this dirty bitch, who is in France now, come up with some additional, another crazy statements. He's trying to threaten people all over the Europe, and he went to say the distance between Moscow and Paris is less than 3,000 kilometers, adding that Russian missile range is 2,500 kilometers. What a stupid clown this is, isn't it? I mean, did he ever hear anything about Oreshnik missiles? Last time I checked, Oreshniks can take out any target from 3 to 5,000 in range, more or less, So it's it's a lie, factually inaccurate statement from Zelensky. But point here is that he's trying to threaten people of France that, if you don't get engaged in this war further, then Moscow gonna bomb you. You know what? Russia might take action against French military assets, against French military industrial complex. Yes, we can do it, and we will do it as a retaliation, though. Only as a retaliation. We would not attack first, but we will retaliate, right? And we already have enough reasons to strike France at any point, any second, by the way, because I believe hundreds of French Scalp-G cruise missiles were launched against Russia. French militaries, by the way, from Foreign Legion or whatever, were participating in this war directly, right? French intelligence was engaged directly, so we have enough evidences of acts of war that France committed against Russia. So Russian president can literally at any second say, you know what, do it, right? And France will have no more fleet, France will have no more army, France will have no more military industrial complex. And if we want to, there will be no more France too. I mean, literally. If we want to, there will be no France left. Only, radioactive dust. Literally, by the way. There will be no freaking France left. So better French citizens realize that, right? And do something about it before it's not too late. Zelensky also went to say that in 2 years' time, Russia will have missiles with a 500,000 kilometer range. Russia already has missiles with such capabilities, and Russia can strike, by the way, any point anywhere on this planet, right? It's this is the truth for how many decades now? What this freaking moron Zelensky is even talking about? That Russia will have in few years' time missiles with a range of 5,000 kilometers. Russia is leading country when it comes to intercontinental missiles, for God's sake. What 5,000 kilometers? Insane. Evelyn. And he also went to say that South Korean scenario will not suit Ukraine. Okay. No one is offering you Korean scenario. Western slut. That is Zelensky, right? RIA Novosti is also reporting that Macron announced the completion of preparation of a security guarantees for Ukraine. This is also part of a deception operation, of course. No one should get misled by these talks about security guarantees. This is Western so-called elites are coming up with the proposals that they know in advance that would not be acceptable by Moscow, but they are still making statements about it. Then for domestic public, basically, then to basically blame Russia for everything, right? What is going to happen? In reality, by the way, what France is doing, and UK and Germany and the US and others, is preparing unprecedented scale assault on Russian Federation. And this is going to happen soon. It seems absolutely inevitable at this point. And while Macron is engaged in this war against Russia, Macron French elites, and they are basically sacrificing France and French citizens, all of them, right, for the geopolitical agenda of the globalists. Macron himself is no any more popular than any freaking French actor you take, even less popular than any even mediocre French actor. 80% of French voters don't trust Macron, right? And it's going to be Macron, by the way, that will decide fate of France in not in a good way. It's going to be very, say, Macron, tremendously unpopular, that will kill France. And the Politico also come up with an article that even resignation of Macron won't save France from tremendous political crisis and the turmoil. And okay, by the way, okay, French citizens will have what they deserve, right? What they deserve, that's what they're gonna get. No any more, no any less. and they should not then whine about, right? They had enough time to wake up if they wanted to, but they did not. So now they will begin. They already are paying prices, by the way, price for all the crimes that France committed worldwide, and they will continue to pay price for it. And this price is gonna get more and more costly. Vzglyad newspaper is also reporting that, and by the way, when I said we should not get confused there, we should not get mistaken about all these statements from the West, including from US, that they want peace and de-escalation. Well, look at US permanent representative to NATO. Now his statements actually do make sense, by the way. You know, yesterday I was saying that, well, if Trump is serious, and yesterday I did not knew, by the way, the German Taurus missiles already are in Ukraine. I just did not knew it. I find out about it this morning when Russian Foreign Intelligence Service reported the information. And yesterday, based on my this cautious optimism, right, that I had, no anymore, but yesterday was yesterday, you know, and yesterday I was saying that this person, U.S. permanent representative to NATO, is going against their policies of their White House, and he should be removed or something, right? But today his statements definitely do make more sense, because we have every reason to believe that Trump, Witkoff, entire administration of US is engaged in a deception operation in the very same way as they did with Iran. They want to fool Russia, cut Russia off guard when they will begin this massive assault on Russian Federation with their long-range strikes, with the terrorist attacks, sabotage operations, and so on. They want us to be cut off guard. And this, hopefully this would not happen, by the way, because if I am ordinary human being, by the way, right, understand this, then I mean, Russian leadership have to understand this. They have no right to be mistaken on that, because there is too much on stake, right? So European countries do not want to send troops to Ukraine as a part of their peace process. They call it a peace process, by the way. Can you imagine that? They are escalating with Russia, and they are calling it a peace process. Said the U.S. permanent representative to NATO, Matthew Whitaker. Our allies, this is a quote, our allies do not have their political will to do everything necessary. Novosti quotes Whitaker as saying, he said European countries could send troops, but nobody wants to do that. This is also a lie, by the way. There is clearly quite a number of countries in Europe that already have troops, by the way, special forces or intelligence services, but nevertheless, they already have troops in Kiev-controlled territory, and openly saying that they are willing to send troops to Ukraine. I mean, UK, France are leading the charge, right? And then there are smaller countries all over Europe. And one should keep in mind, by the way, that US has tens of thousands of its troops literally on the Russian border. They have troops in Romania. US has troops in Romania. US has troops in Poland, right? Are literally on the Russian border. And those troops are going to become legit target very soon. They are legit targets already, if you ask me. But this decision is up to Russian president, and he will make right decisions. I want to believe. So yes, by the way, today these are extremely hawkish, hostile statements of U.S. Permanent Representative to NATO that is calling Europeans openly to send their troops to fight Russia does make actually more sense. He might be not happy that not all European countries are taking orders from US, at least for now, and they are not willing to sacrifice their citizens. But nevertheless, if yesterday I was a bit confused what the hell is going on, Trump is talking about peace, this guy is calling for escalation with Russia. Now everything makes more sense. Once we learn from Russian Foreign Intelligence Service that Germany already has transferred their Taurus missiles into Kiev-controlled territory. And this is truly news that changes everything, right? Because now it is clear that a large-scale escalation, unprecedented scale escalation, is absolutely inevitable. There can be no doubts about that. The only question I have personally is how ready we are for what is about to happen. How ready we are, Russian citizens, as a society, as a country, to withstand this tremendous assault that West will start soon, and how we will retaliate. That's the only questions I have personally. I think we are ready. We are strong people, by the way. We went through 90s, right? So we're going to withstand any level of pressure that West may come up with. So we will do good, right? We will do okay as a society here in Russia. And another question, Russian retaliation. My hope is that we will retaliate in a manner that will force Western ruling class, globalists, neocons, to finally acknowledge that any further escalation will mean their certain death, and after that realization will settle in the brains of those freaking morons that are in charge of collective West. Then, due to fear of death, by the way, they're gonna begin the escalating. They will agree on capitulation to save their lives, not because they want peace or something, but to save their lives. There is issues with the sound. Okay, there are some issues with the sound, dear friends, and I'm gonna deal with that right now. Just a sec, dear friends. I'm gonna deal with it. Hopefully, this will help. I don't know. Last few days there was no sound issues, and today there is a sound issue again. I did it. What can I do? Okay, I will delete this. Тоже, короче. Я поудаляю вот эти, то что. Okay, let's continue. I mean, hopefully sound will get better. Otherwise, I can end the live stream right now if there is too much technical issues there. Dear friends, can you tell me, is sound good or? I can turn off VPN completely, by the way, right now. Is it better now? Okay, if it's better. Okay, dear friends, I will continue. I can see several comments that the sound is not ideal, but members are calling me to continue, so I will. And so where I was, sorry for these technical issues, dear friends. As you can understand, I don't have a professional equipment, studio equipment, and time to time, either notebook is not capable of working properly, or microphone, or maybe it's a StreamYard issue, by the way. Some members of our community earlier commented that StreamYard time to time does that kind of stuff. When it comes to escalation between Russia and the West, yet again, there is less and less reasons to believe that Washington actually wants the escalation because we have statement from Hexet, for example, that Trump ordered Pentagon to deter Russia and China. Washington is seeking to restore deterrence against both Russia and China. U.S. Secretary of Defense Pat Hexet had said, speaking to Fox News, Hexet argued that the military parade in Beijing on Wednesday, attended by Chinese President Xi Jinping and Russian President Vladimir Putin, many other leaders, highlighted the closer ties between their two neighbors, Russia and China. And by the way, while monitoring this meltdown that is happening in Western propaganda outlets, in Western so-called media, also a meltdown among Western so-called public figures, politicians, and so on, I wonder if those people only wake up yesterday or day before yesterday. Did they ever hear about Shanghai Cooperation Organization before this summit took place a few days ago in Tianjin? Did they hear about BRICS ever? Did they hear that Russia and China are strategical partners, and China is a main trade partner for Russia right now? It used to be EU, by the way, believe it or not. Number of years ago, EU was the number one trade partner for Russia. Now it's China. And what is going on in the West? Why they are so hysterical to see Russian president and Chinese leader together, or Modi, Prime Minister of India, together with the Russian leader and the Chinese leader? After all, Russia and India have a long-standing friendship and a strategical partnership since the Cold War. And by the way, since that very Cold War, US, in the West, by the way, now these propagandists are pushing the narrative that, well, China and the Soviet Union, China and Russia will always against US, right? This is some new false narrative that they are coming up with. Yesterday, I watched a video from CNN, that was, I believe, and yesterday it was Piers Morgan's show, by the way, and he had some general as a guest, US general, and that general said that China and Russia, or Moscow and Beijing, are cooperating against, conspiring against US since the Cold War. And I was watching this program. There were a few interesting guests, actually. Dave Smith, for example, one of them. There were representatives, from India. She made good comments. But anyways, when I was listening to this general, U.S. general, by the way, I was thinking to myself, how this moron become general? This stupid animal don't even know that during the Cold War, China was a U.S. ally, not the Soviet ally. After Stalin, by the way, after Stalin's death, relationships between Soviet Union and China deteriorated very, very fast, very rapidly. And during the previous updates, in one of the episodes, I even recall their story, or mentioned the story of actual military hostilities between Soviet Union and China when there was a territorial dispute on Amur River for the Mansky Island, and there were some other issues too. I said quite a few times that, China actually supplied Mujahedeens, by the way. 70-80% of weapons that Mujahedeens got during the Soviet military operation in Afghanistan was coming from China. From China, by the way. I don't know, maybe people in the West, this bad educated, majority, that they have no freaking idea about history. But, if they want to, they should learn something. Otherwise, it just really looks too stupid when these people, like General, is venting on a talk show and saying some absolutely nonsensical, crazy stuff. And, no one is challenging, by the way. What is surprising that no one from the panel, unfortunately, challenged him. Neither Piers Morgan, who is also a moron, by the way, uneducated freaking moron, right? Not him, not others. And I'm quite sure they knew better. They knew better. They knew that China was not a Soviet ally, by the way. Good part of their Cold War. It was Soviet enemy actually, and US was investing. US began investing in China to keep it that way, right? Maybe they are regretting now these investments, but they did what they did, right? And they are still now pushing this false narrative that, well, and by the way, after Soviet Union collapse, well, Russia began building new relationships with China, right? There was a heavy work, hard work on the demarcation process on the border to make sure that there is no territorial dispute between the sides. And step by step, two countries resolved their past issues and they're moved forward and now are strategical partners. Nothing is wrong with that, right? But to demonize Russia and China for that purpose, to come up with the false narratives and to lie about history, it's wrong, man. It's wrong, and it just reaffirms my belief that Western so-called elites are just truly uneducated, stupid freaking animals, man. That's what they are. You know, I will judge my personal education from 10 points, you know, and I'm always quite self-critical, but you know, from 10 points, I will say my education is hopefully at 6, hopefully, because there is so much more to know, by the way, right? Uh, and if my is on 6, then whole Western elites combined, by the way, I will make them free, 2, maybe. That's how stupid they look to me, by the way. Can you imagine how shocked people are that have like much better education than I have? They probably cannot even listen to those freaking morons that are in charge of collective West, because this is insult to their intelligence, by the way. It's insult to intellect, what they are talking about, right? And how Western societies are putting up with this madness, man, I have no freaking idea. How Western societies can watch this nonsense and they're be okay with this, man, when they being run, their countries being run by these uneducated animals. I don't know. But anyways, Pet Hexet, by the way, has said that Trump will give him an order to deter Russia and China. Okay, go ahead. Let's see what you're going to come up with. Also, Russian for when it I mentioned, dear friends, in the beginning that we should expect and we are expecting large-scale escalation with Russia from the collective West, and one of the ways they might escalate, or how they're going to create a ground for a further escalation, is that they're going to do some false flag operation, by the way. Most likely, they already have plans to crash one or maybe several passenger planes with politicians or with civilians in the West, and then blame Russia for this crash. They will say Russia was jamming GPS and planes crashed because of that, and they have already prepared the ground for it, because Western propaganda outlets, also Brussels, by the way, and Sofia, for whatever reasons, capital of Bulgaria, or local so-called elites there, also are directly engaged in this to push this false narrative that Russia jammed GPS of their plane on which Ursula was flying to Bulgaria, or whichever direction. And I commented on this information. I shared this information earlier. This is clearly an attempt to create a ground for false flag operation. 100%, by the way, 100%. Flight radar site. It's not just Russian side denied this stupid allegation, but Flight Radar, by the way, also stated that then Flight Radar monitors all the flights worldwide, and they said, well, GPS signal was very strong. I mean, GPS signal was okay. Brussels said that due to these issues, or alleged issues with the GPS, plane was circling about hour because pilots were unable to land the plane. They have to use some paper maps. Well, Flight Radar said that they were tracking plane perfectly well, and plane landed like 8 minutes later than scheduled. So they did not fly around their hour or something. It's completely false narrative, by the way, completely false narrative. And why Brussels and Western secret services were engaged in this in creation of this false narrative? Because they are planning false flag operations, right? That's the only explanation, by the way. They are planning false flag operations. They're going to crash planes, most likely, either with civilians or with the politicians from some country, and they're going to blame that on Russia. And by the way, in a few weeks' time, in 2 3 weeks' time, Trump is flying to UK, right? I would not be surprised at all if CIA and MI6 will orchestrate even crash of Trump's plane, and then they will blame Russia for that. I would not be surprised at all, by the way, if they will go that far. But most definitely, they are planning to crash some planes, man, for sure. And the Russian Foreign Ministry commented on this false narrative that is pushed by West. Russia has strongly rejected claims that it attempted to jam the GPS system of the plane carrying EU leader Ursula washing machine. According to Brussels, the alleged incident occurred during a European Commission President Ursula washing machine trip to Bulgaria last week. At the press briefing on Tuesday, Russian Foreign Ministry spokeswoman Maria Zakharova called the allegations preposterous and 100% false. She added that Moscow will continue to combat the West's web of lies aimed at discrediting Russia on the world stage. And by the way, this is not ordinary. This is not ordinary anti-Russian media campaign. This particular story is being created to pave the ground for false flag operations. And it is unfortunate. I called in previous days. I did say that hopefully Russian Foreign Ministry will make statement about it. And it is unfortunate that Maria Zakharova did not went to say that this provocation may then be used by Western secret services to actually jam GPS of some of the planes, or to crash, by the way, some of the planes one way or another, right? They can put some explosive materials on the planes, detonate it, and they will say, you know what, plane crashed because of the GPS jamming, right? And you will never find out what happened. So it would be better if Russian Foreign Ministry and also Russian security services issue their preemptive statements that this is a preparation of the false flag operation by the Western secret services, because it is, and I'm quite sure Russian intelligence has information on that. What else do I have, by the way? Well, not surprisingly, press spokesman of the Russian president commented quite coldly on the new initiative of German Chancellor Friedrich Merz to hold negotiations on Ukraine in Geneva. First of all, well, Switzerland is not a neutral country, and there is no reason why should Russia hold any negotiations in that in Geneva or Bern or in any city there or the village, right? And secondly, Merz cannot be cannot given any respect, by the way, whatsoever. And seems like Moscow actually fed up with the Merz, because look what Peskov said, and this is very rare occasions when Russian high-ranking officials are using not extremely polite language as they usually do. So Merz has made many bad statements in recent hours. It is unlikely that his opinion can be taken into account. Peskov stated on Geneva as a Russia-Ukraine meeting point. And yet again, by the way, Peskov basically said, we just don't give a damn about what Merz has to say, right? He said it still politely, right? But there is a call there in that statement that it is unlikely that Merz's opinion can be taken into account. Yes, we should stop being this polite, by the way, right? especially towards our enemies, man. Enemies have only one purpose. We have to kill them all. That's the only reason why enemies exist. We should kill them all, man. Period. You know, no talks, no negotiations, that kill them all. That's it, man. That's why they are enemies. Enemies should be treated as such, and friends should be treated as friends, right? Words have a meaning, and we don't need no negotiations with enemies. We want our enemies to be exterminated. That's it. Meanwhile, Kaya Kallas, by the way, another genius from Western elites, come up with statements how they gonna strengthen their stance in the world, how strong they are, and that kind of nonsense. I let you listen to this individual, by the way.
In a battle of freedom and democracy.
Yes, Europe is engaged in a battle of freedom and democracy. Yes, of course. By the way, I mean, Europeans can tell me what freedoms and democracy, what freedoms they have in Europe. What freedoms do they have that we don't? I mean, really, what freedoms do Europeans have that we don't? I think we have more freedoms than they do in Europe. I can say whatever I want, by the way, literally whatever I want. I can write whatever I want. And I'm not going to get freaking arrested for that, you know? In Europe, there is an entire list of topics that you better say nothing, right? You better say nothing. Or you're going to lose all your life, by the way. You're going to get canceled. You're going to get fired from your job and the rest of their nonsense. And even, I said in previous updates, isn't it? I was shocked to see that video, by the way, when elderly man, by the way, was arrested in UK for commenting something on freaking Facebook. Can you imagine that? Someone called the police on a commentary of a person. Is that not insane? And this dirty freaking creature is saying that they are fighting for freedom and democracy. What freedoms, man? What freedoms do they have in Europe? They are freaking slaves of globalists, man. That's what Europeans are, slaves. Most of them, right? Majority of them are freaking slaves, man. End of story there. I'm sick and tired of hearing this nonsense, by the way, from Westerners. We have freedom and democracy. What democracy you have? We saw your democracy in Romania just like a few months ago, isn't it? We saw it. We see your democracy in Germany, by the way, when state institutions aren't being used to crush AfD, right? Political party, by the way, most popular one. And I can go on and on, right? Anyways, let's listen to this genius.
To participate as an equal player, Europe must build its geopolitical power. As we know, geopolitical power may be based on either military might or economic force. There is no doubt that Europe has economic power. We are one of the world's largest economies and leading global trading bloc.
Yeah, you used to be world's one of the largest economies. That is in decline. That is in decline, right? Leading economies in Europe are in decline. And when it comes to Europe, by the way, by PPP index, actually most accurate index that there is, Russia is the biggest economy in Europe. Not Germany, not UK, not France, not Italy, no any other. It's Russia, by the way, that is our biggest economy. And when it comes to alliances, by the way, economical alliances, well, Europe is dwarfed. Europe is dwarfed by BRICS, right? Europe is dwarfed by Shanghai Cooperation Organization. So she should be sent somewhere, by the way, to read a book or two about, I don't know, anything, right? and then let her talk. Let's see what she will learn.
We have the second most used currency and the largest reserve currency in the world. Our military might, on the other hand, has never been strong enough. We have not spent enough on military hardware. What we have spent has not been inefficient. And we have not developed the right capabilities. But we are changing. Europe has embarked on the biggest military undertaking in recent history. 2 trillion euros in additional defense spending between now and 2031.
2 trillion euros, by the way. That's the reason, basically, that I'm sharing this video. They're gonna talk 2 trillion euros from European taxpayers, by the way. And they're gonna use this to enrich military-industrial complex and themselves. 2 freaking trillion euros, man. These bankrupt economies, almost bankrupt economies, by the way, gonna took 2 trillion and enrich military-industrial complex and themselves. And you know what? Unfortunately, most likely majority of societies in European states will either never knew about it, never learn about it, or will say nothing. And they are saying that they are free, by the way. They are freaking slaves, man. This is not a freaking freedom. When your freaking bridges are collapsing, buildings are collapsing, when social fabric is stretched beyond any imagination, right? When there is entire blocks in the cities, by the way, that you cannot go because it's just not freaking safe, right? And all over the Europe, this shit is happening. And these morons gonna talk 2 trillion and enrich themselves and the military-industrial complex. Okay, man. Okay. What can I say? I mean, no wonder Europe is doomed, man. Europe is doomed so badly and so irreversibly that it's just. So that's the Europe for you, dear friends. They are still trying to play like if they are important. These so-called elites there, well, they are not, and well, they're gonna escalate now because of this attitude. By the way, they're gonna escalate with us. And this is going to be their last escalation. This is going to be their last escalation, by the way, against us. Moscow will retaliate, and this time, and will retaliate so harsh on enemies that they will have no option but to, well, not just begin listening to Moscow, but to capitulate. That's all. We don't really need to talk to them. Right? There is nothing to talk to Kaja Kallas, by the way, or to Ursula, or to all sorts of morons that are in charge of European states. I mean, there is nothing to talk to them, right? They have to capitulate, and that's about it. That's about it. They can have Western Ukraine, right? We don't give a damn about it. Let the Poland deal with that situation there, and Romania and Hungary if they want to. The rest of Ukraine is going to be in Russia, either directly, completely, or partially, whatever. But in Russian, exclusive Russian zone of influence, 100%. And after that, we will just forget about the existence of Europe. That's what's going to happen. We will just forget about it, right? World is much bigger than these elements in Western elites are imagining. So it is what it is, man. It is what it is. What other news do I have prepared here? Well, Dmitry Medvedev, recently, by the way, Finnish president, another genius, stated that they won war against the Soviet Union. And I did not really report on that news, on that statement, because it's just too moronish, right? Anyone who knows his story will say, what the hell, what he smoked or what he's under, right? Under what influence of what substances. Well, Finnish so-called elites continue to speculate on the matter, right? And I guess Dmitry Medvedev, former Russian president, had enough of it, and he came up with this post, by the way. Finland defeated the USSR in the war said Stubb, a Finnish president. Well, those victories are clearly visible on the map of the Finland's lost territory. This is apparently a hint for the drug clown in Kiev on how to explain his upcoming victory, Dmitry Medvedev said. And on the map, by the way, you can see areas that used to be Finland, but no longer. Russia took it as a compensation for all the harm that was done by this Nazi state and ally of Nazi Germany that Finland was, right? During the Second World War, only in 44, isn't it? That was Helsinki come to the terms of realization that Nazi Germany gonna be destroyed, and they asked Moscow. They contacted Moscow, by the way, and were seeking for the escalation, right? And Moscow said, "Okay, you make sure that German troops are withdrawn from Finland, and you give up this and that territories as a compensation." And there were some other demands, and they all agree on that. And they jailed, by the way, their leadership, their Nazi leadership. That's what happened. And if that is a victory for Finland, then okay. Okay, but the rest of the world sees things a bit differently. But yes, Kiev regime, yet again, by the way, this is very hypothetical talks. I mean, that Kiev regime might repeat the same fate. No, there will be no Ukraine, by the way. There will be no Ukraine on the political map while this conflict will end. I tried hard to maintain some sort of optimism that maybe we will find ways to actually de-escalate and reach a lasting peace, but it's not happening, man. Until we will force globalists to capitulate and globalist controlled regimes in the collective West, there's gonna be no peace. So therefore, we will force them to capitulate, and that is and that means there will be no more Ukraine on the political map. There is no reason why should Moscow keep even Kiev and the surrounding couple of regions as a landlocked quasi-state on the political map. Why should we do this? Let's liberate all the Russian territory. And when it comes to Western Ukraine, which for the last several centuries, by the way, originally it was a Russian territory too, but in the last several centuries, things change, and the mentality of locals is very different, right? And so, okay, Poland, Hungary, and Romania can deal with that. Rest is coming to Russia, man, 100%. Also, dear friends, last night, Russian air defense systems intercepted 46 drones that was launched by Kiev regime to strike deep into Russian territory by Kiev regime and its Western allies. 24 of them were intercepted in the Rostov region, 4 over the Krasnodar region, 2 over the Volgograd region, and 16 over the Black Sea. A few more news, dear friends. UAE warns White House that Israeli annexation could unreveal Abraham Accords. This is a report from Axios, and also this Western propaganda outlet, by the way, writes that Secretary of State Marco Rubio, in private conversations, allegedly is saying that the US will not prevent Israel's annexation of the West Bank of the Jordan River. Some people may don't know that why West Bank is called West Bank. Actually, it's called West Bank of the Jordan River. And Jordan is a river where Jesus was baptized, for example, right? Am I correct on that? And not just Jesus, right? And so, yes, you see, by the way, if Axios is correct, then, yet another my prediction is about to become true. I said since the beginning of Israeli war crimes against Palestinians that this latest wave, that most likely Israeli regime plans to force either kill as many as they can Palestinians in the Gaza Strip, and then force rest out of the region, and then they will do the same with the West Bank. And they are clearly having conversations about it with their with Americans, right? With U.S. Leadership. And allegedly, Rubio is saying that, well, U.S. will have no issue if you do the same in the West Bank. And after West Bank, if this is fascist Israel, by the way, if this fascist entity and genocidal maniacs that are in charge of Israel are not stopped, then they will do the same, not just in the West Bank, but also in southern Lebanon, maybe even central Lebanon. By the way, they are killing people in Syria already, right? And for quite a while now. But they might take more territories from Syria. They already are occupying Golan Heights and some more territories, and they might actually take so much territory from Syria that they may get to border with Iran. I mean, that's what Iraq. Sorry, they might get to border with Iraq. All southern part of Syria might be taken by Israel, strip all along to Iraqi border, maybe, right? And probably they are also dreaming to destroy Egypt. I'm quite sure Israeli fascists are not happy that Egypt, more or less, even though US is in strong control of Egypt, but nevertheless, Israelis are not happy that Egypt still has a military that is a quite capable one, right? So probably they want to destroy Egypt too. And all the other countries, well, these are fascists. And what fascists do? Kill everybody. That's it. And unfortunately, they have allies, those fascists, man, in US. And when I say that US leadership is a slut of Israel, I actually mean that. They are a slut of Israel, right? It is what it is, man. RT is reporting that, Russia-China gas deal to turn their LNG market on its head. I reported about it partially yesterday, but RT is also paying attention to this development. Let me give you some details. So Russia's announcement this week of expanded pipeline gas export to China could shake the global liquefied natural gas market and squeeze out US suppliers. Bloomberg reported on Wednesday. During his visit to China, Russian President Vladimir Putin confirmed that Moscow and Beijing has reached consensus on major new pipelines across Mongolia, which would significantly boost existing supplies. Although Chinese officials did not immediately comment, Bloomberg noted that their ties binding Russia to its most important consumer have undoubtedly tightened. The proposed Power Siberia 2 pipeline could be operational by 2030. Combined with their other supplier increases, Russia could displace up to half of their more than 40 million tons of LNG China currently imports each year, including from the US. Bloomberg estimates, that's what they care about, that US energy companies might lose their customers in China. But we should keep in mind that Trump just recently forced Brussels to sign up for a agreement with US to buy LNG and their energy sources from US for 100 billion every freaking, 250 billion or something, by the way. Every freaking year. You remember that deal, isn't it? That everyone was shocked. And so, yes, if US loses certain volume on Chinese market, they can easily redirect their LNG to European markets, right? So I don't think this is that big of an issue for US energy companies in reality. But nevertheless, topic is interesting, and I will end new segment, dear friends, on this news from RIA Novosti, that according to head of biggest Russian lender, Sberbank, German Gref, weakening of ruble should be expected by end of the year. So Sberbank CEO German Gref predicted a weakening of the ruble by end of the year with lower rates. He shared this opinion at the press conference on the sidelines of the Eastern Economic Forum. If there is a reduction in rates. He's talking about rates, first of all, central bank interest rate. I think there will be gradual decline in the exchange rate. According to all our estimates, the exchange rate should weaken by the end of the year, which will reduce the risks for exporters and their federal budget. And he is correct, by the way. He is correct. Russian ruble is too strong. This is no good for economy. This is no good for exporters. This is no good for federal budget. This is not good for nobody, because if you think if Russian ruble will get weaker, let's say 100 ruble for a dollar, price is going to jump up. No, they're not, because Russian ruble already was on a level exchange rate 100 ruble for a dollar. And at that point, businesses already increase their prices, and they have no reasons to increase prices again if and when Russian ruble will be weakened to a level of around 100 rubles for a dollar, which is still not enough, by the way. Still not enough for economy, for export-oriented economy and their export businesses. I don't think that is enough for federal budget too, but currently ruble is just too freaking strong, man, and this is harming Russia. This is harming, or there is a mistaken thinking among many in the world that strong currency is good, but actually it's not. It's not always the case, let's say this way. It's not always the case. Strong currency for exporter countries, by the way, not necessarily is a good thing. So yes, towards the end of the year, probably we will see interest rate or exchange rate between ruble and dollar changing. I want to give you the difference interest exchange rate right now, today. Usually TASS publishes information. So yes, today, by the way, $1, I mean, 100 for $1, banks will give you 80.85 rubles, almost 81 rubles, by the way. Still, ruble is too strong, man. 100 or 110 rubles for a dollar may be sort of optimal, but I have read some articles where some financial experts were saying that ideally exchange rate should be 130 plus rubles for a dollar. I don't think ruble will get weaker that much. It's just impossible, man. There is a high demand on a ruble, right? There is a high interest rates from central bank. Also, there is a high demand on a ruble from foreign countries that pay for Russian goods in rubles, right? And central bank is struggling. Central bank and financial ministry, as far as I can tell, are struggling to weaken the ruble, right? Probably they were expecting that when in July, central bank drop interest rate for 2%, probably they were hoping that this will make ruble a little weaker, but it did not have any influence. Ruble actually become stronger, right? That's how high demand on the rubles are, and mainly because of the foreigners, by the way. Foreign businesses and so on that are trading with Russia, right? And so also, dear friends, I just opened TASS News Agency, and here we can see a reporter that Russian armed forces liberated settlement of what is wrong with their internet? So Russian armed forces liberated Novoselovka settlement in Zaporozhye region. This was reported literally a couple of minutes ago, at 12 o'clock. So some half an hour ago, right? So yes, additional news, dear friends, about progress of the Russian armed forces. Settlement Novoselovka is being liberated by Russian forces. Information is confirmed by defense ministry. And this is it for a news segment, dear friends. Hopefully you did find it informative, interesting, useful, maybe entertaining, and if so, please like the video, This might help to deal with the algorithm, and there also leave some commentary. If you want to support my work, dear friends, or if you want to support this project, links to support platforms are under this video in the description box and in the pinned comment. I mean, you can donate through PayPal, Boosty platform. You can subscribe to my Patreon page where I have extra content or exclusive content on regular basis. Also, I have a page on Boosty. What else, man? During the live streams, you can use super chat feature to donate, but there was no super chat today. I can see. And you can become a premium subscriber on Rumble. And dear friends, let me show you this screenshot from Boosty. This morning, Barney, member of our community, donated 1,558 rubles, which is about $20. So thank you very much, Barney, for your support and attention. And Barney is commenting, "Hi, Levan, thanks for all your work. We know it takes time. Appreciate the live daily updates. You have a great community going. Let's see what happens next." Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Barney, for your donation and the kind words. We are a great community, 100%. I always say, dear friends, for the newcomers that maybe we are tiny community but very friendly, and this is 100% true. You are a great community, by the way, and I'm privileged to be part of this community. Thank you, Barney, for your support. And let me now join the community chat for a little while. I see Nikos is commenting, Levan, we had a discussion on the Duran about how fast Russia can replace their losses in the Black Sea, 11 out of 61. They said that Russia had a pretty extensive naval program and continues. My question is that since Russia tried to repair Admiral Kuznetsov only to mothball it, how would you feel about China making Russia a new aircraft carrier in exchange for submarine technologies? Well, I'm regularly watching Duran, by the way. I have seen your questions also regularly there on Duran. You are one of the bigger supporters of the alternative media. So yes, I don't know. I'm not sure we need a aircraft carrier, to be frank. Why would we need an aircraft carrier? Admiral Kuznetsov should retire, should be decommissioned long ago, by the way. There was no need to keep that aircraft carrier. There was too many flaws in that project. First of all, due to engines, right? And not just that. It's a Soviet era project, isn't it? So I think there was no need to spend so much money on maintenance of Admiral Kuznetsov, and their final decision did not yet be made to decommission Admiral Kuznetsov, only aircraft carrier of Russia right now. But probably decision will be made, and that will be correct decision. I'm not military expert, of course, and therefore my opinion should be taken with a pinch of salt, mountain of salt, if you want. But I still don't think we need aircraft carriers, by the way. Take a look at the Russian geography. Russian coastline, most of the Russian coastline is in Arctic, and aircraft carriers are not needed there. Submarines, yes, but aircraft carriers in Arctic, no. When it comes to Russian Far East and Pacifics. Well, I mean, yet again, I think large amphibious warships, will do the job. Yet again, aircraft carrier is just waste of money and resources, right? All sorts of resources. I think large amphibious warships will probably are more will be more useful for Russia. 5, 7 larger amphibious warships, maybe more, will do the job. But classical aircraft carrier, we don't need this, in my personal opinion. So no, if China does needs some technologies in terms of submarines that Russia can offer, and if they're gonna be any exchange, I don't think so. But if they're gonna be any cooperation in this direction between China and Russia, then what can China offer really in terms of military technologies? They can build large amphibious warships for us if they want to. Right now, 2 large amphibious warships are built here in Russia uh, in Russian companies, in Russian shipyards. If China will, you know, yet again, if there is any need for this larger, I mean, for more large amphibious warships, then China can build them for us. But I don't know. And some might argue that China has better stealth technologies, and some might argue that the J-20 stealth plane of China is more stealthy than Russian Su-57. And recently, I saw some reports that allegedly Chinese J-20 is even stealthier than F-35, latest US fifth gen plane. I don't know about that, but and I'm not sure this stealth is that relevant really. I'm quite sure it's only a matter of time, and miniaturization will happen of longer wavelength radars if it's not already being done. Then to adapt tracking and system and firing solution, it's not going to be that difficult. So therefore, give it another 5, 10, 15 years, and modern planes at the time will have capabilities to track so-called stealth planes in the very same as easy as a fourth generation fighter jet. So yet again, I'm not even sure that we will need Chinese stealth technology in exchange of our submarine technology. I don't know, but to answer your question, Nikos, I'm not sure we need aircraft carriers. Uh, amphibious warships, large amphibious warships, maybe, but aircraft carrier, no, we don't need that. I think so. Yet again, I'm not military expert, so I'm watching Durand. I mean, regularly, and I guess I missed that episode when there was a conversation about aircraft carriers in Russian Navy. I wonder what Alex and Alexander told you about this. So I'm scrolling now, dear friends, and that's my answer, Nikos. There is a continuation there. Nikos is also asking, subs are better than aircraft carriers, but I believe that a country the size of Russia should have at least 3 carriers like China. Carrier groups are also important, don't you agree? Yes, I guess I already answered. I think larger amphibious warships will large amphibious vessels will do the job to present the flag all around the world, right? To demonstrate the force. We don't need aircraft carriers. Most of the Russian coastal line is in Arctics, and you're not going to run carriers there, right? And in Pacifics, by the way, if Russia had their numerous number of islands all over the Pacifics, then okay. I mean, I can see maybe potentially need for aircraft carrier, or if Russia was constantly engaged in some wars, right, like US is all over the world. In that case, yes, you need floating airfields, right? But Russia is not engaged in wars all over the world, right? So therefore, we just don't need aircraft carriers. Large amphibious warships with the helicopters on the board and potentially vertical takeoff and landing fighter jets will do the job. Quite sure about it. And when it comes to China, China has a different situation. They have different coastline, of course, and for them, yes, it might make some sense to have a larger aircraft carrier fleet. But yet again, it's in my opinion, it's a waste of resources, because I don't think China plans to be engaged in wars all over the world as US is, right? So maybe they build these aircraft carriers. I mean, third one is a super carrier, right? That entered service yesterday, should enter service yesterday, literally. I mean, on 3rd of September. And yes, they have 3 aircraft carriers, and what? They will probably build another couple of, and why? I mean, it's a pure waste of time. For US, okay, US is always in wars, and they need them, but Russia, China, and countries that are mostly peaceful, by the way, we don't freaking need this weapon system, I think. If it comes to war between nuclear superpowers, then you can understand it's literally one nuclear warhead, and the entire strike group is eliminated, right? Aircraft carrier and support vessels. Usually, aircraft carriers are moving around with 3 to 5, sometimes more, underwater vessels, and there are sometimes 1 or 2 submarines that are escorting the carriers. And it's only one nuclear warhead, by the way, detonating somewhere in around there. It depends on yield of a nuke, but you don't have to hit carrier itself, right? Nuke may explode in a 1 kilometer away distance, and that will eliminate entire strike group, right? If not the fire, if not the this impact of the explosion itself will neutralize the vessels, then radiation will. So, and nowadays missiles are extremely precise, isn't it? Michael Kennedy is commenting Areshnik to Davos for sure. Yes, I mean, you know how I react on different news, dear friends, and I was actually so hopeful that maybe we're gonna see the escalation. Through the escalation, I wanted to believe that Washington is honest, right? Despite all my skepticism, I wanted to believe that Washington is honester this time around, and they want the escalation, but they are not, man. They are not. Without US authorization, Germany cannot send Taurus missiles to Ukraine, because there is a US made parts in it. So Washington, Trump, by the way, basically authorized not just the transfer of American made cruise missiles, this ARMA or whatever the name is, to a Kyiv regime, but they also authorized Germany to transfer those Taurus missiles, right? So therefore, let's be realistic, man. Something big is coming, some tremendous level of escalation from the West. They're gonna attack us big time, man. They might try to decapitate Russian political and military leadership with this extreme escalation. And at the same time, they probably will use whatever or most of the assets they have in Russia to orchestrate large-scale sabotage operations. Or they're gonna orchestrate cyber attacks all over the Russian. They're gonna try to create a chaos as much as possible, right? This is their last chance, sort of, and they are going all in. It seems like globalists and neocons, they are going all in. And if I understand this, I mean, I have no reason to believe that think tanks that are providing analytics to Kremlin, they don't. Probably they do understand this too, and they're much better than I am. And also there is intelligence services that are providing Kremlin with information. So hopefully we are ready, by the way. I mean, we are ready to retaliate. We might not be able to avoid this escalation because how many times Moscow going to issue warnings, man? You tell me how many times Moscow already warned the West not to escalate, not to escalate, not to do this and that. They never listen. They never listen. And therefore, probably at this point, Putin and everyone else, they know what is going to happen. And they are just unable to prevent this escalation from the West from happening. And therefore, all they do probably is preparing a retaliatory strike on a scale that will, finally force globalists and their control regimes all over the West to come to their senses and agree on Russian terms to de-escalate. We can call it capitulation or whatever, but yeah, we will do what we have to do, and none of us want it. By the way, I mean it's really sad, man. That it seems like there is no any other ways to deal with the collective West, isn't it? They're not gonna stop, man, until they are forced to do it. So I was so hopeful, man, that maybe this conflict will end soon, and Trump will come to Moscow and he will bring Zelensky with him, and some agreements will be reached, and they're going to be no more shooting and the death and destruction. And this morning I learned this news that Taurus missiles being sent too. So it's a clear indicator that escalation is coming. And all these talks from Washington about the escalation, about peace, is just a deception operation. It is what it is. Mm-hmm. Dear friends, I can see your positive comments in the chat. Thank you very much for your kind words. Maybe today, later on, I will do a second live stream also. It depends how day goes news-wise. Yesterday, there was this press conference, some videos from that press conference, and I decided to make a second live stream. Maybe I will do it today also, or if not, then probably I will record second news update for Patreon and Boosty communities. And dear friends, if you want to support her, I mean, you might don't have a PayPal, you might don't like a Boosty, you might don't have account on Rumble, but Patreon, by the way, I mean, you can subscribe on Patreon to my page. It's easy to do. And you can choose your level of monthly support there. It starts from $5, and then it's all up to you on which level you will support and for how long. So, and the link to my Patreon is on this video in description box and in the pinned comment. And so, my apologies if I miss your question. I guess I have blood pressure, man, high blood pressure. When there is a pain in how you call it, neck. Usually it's a blood pressure, isn't it? Many interesting comments, dear friends. Sir, I see no question directed to me. So or maybe I will end the live stream on that then. I see Nidish Kumar's question. Levan, I think they want Venezuela oil to sell it to EU. That's why conflict with Venezuela is happening now. Well, they want Venezuelan oil, of course. It's not just the oil, by the way. There is a rare earth also, and all sorts of things there in Venezuela. And most importantly, they want to, I mean, neocons in US, by the way, that is in at least partial control of current administration. They want to send their message to all the countries in South America, in Latin America, that gain some level of independence from the Washington. That well, U.S. is back, and they are, they are about to recolonize all of them, right? That's the message that they want to deliver, I guess, to Latin American countries. And beyond that, of course, they want Venezuela's oil by non reserves. By the way, by discovered reserves, Venezuela is the number one country in this world. Number one country with discovered reserves. Issue with Venezuela is that infrastructure there is very old, needs tremendous investments, right? And also, when it comes to Venezuelan oil, by the way, it's a heavy oil, right? It's a heavy oil. It's very deep in the ground. It's a heavy oil. It's a high quality oil, by the way. Many says U.S. refineries usually are working or used to work on that type of oil, and they were buying light crudes to for mix up, right? I don't know exactly how these chemical processes are done there, but yes, it's oil, some other resources, of course, and they might sell it to Europe, they might sell it to whomever. They're gonna try to make good buck on that. But I think first of all, U.S. wants to send a message to its backyard, as they see whole of South America, right? South of Latin America, let's say. They see it as their backyard, right? This Monroe Doctrine is still in place, isn't it? Uh, Also, Nidish is commenting, Levan, do you have a spondylist? What is the spondylist, Nidish? I don't know. Ayn, what is the spondylist? Ah, Anya is telling me that it's like with the spine. Spine. No, I have no issues with the spine, by the way. I mean, right now, I feel a little pain in the back of my neck, head, in the back of my head there. And usually, when I feel like that, it's a high blood pressure. Maybe there is some freaking magnetic storm again or something. I don't know. But yes, with age, by the way, we are beginning to feel some stuff. Anya is telling me that I was Shouting too much? I was angry. Really. Oh, my apologies, dear friends, if I lose my cool at one point. She is always critical of me, by the way. Whenever I'm losing my cool, she is my biggest critic, biggest supporter, and the biggest critic, same time. Elaine, thank you very much for your $20 donation on a PayPal right now during the stream. And comment from Elaine is, thanks, Levan, an American who appreciates your honest reporting from Russia. We don't get honesty in US reporting. Thank you very much, Elaine, for your donation once again and for your kind words. Truly grateful. Thank you. And dear friends, Kate Stone is also commenting on a topic that Nidish just spoke about. It's in regards to Venezuela. It's about regime change and oil. I agree with you. Yes, Kate. Of course, it's about resources and also regime change. And this way, Washington will send a clear message to everyone who gain even slightest independence from the Washington to that they are next. So better they not resist or and there are countries, by the way, there are countries that actually gain some level of independence from Washington in recent years. Even Colombia, who would think about Colombia gaining any level of independence from Washington? But they did, right? Nothing to be said about Brazil and a number of other countries. So Washington wants to go back and recolonize all those territories. Dear friends, I will end live stream on that, if I may. Thank you very much for your attention, for your time, for your support. Truly grateful for that. If you have not liked the video, please do so. It might help to deal with the algorithm. And John, thank you very much for helping with the moderation. Bonzo beans. And yes, this is it. Have a wonderful day, dear friends, and take care. See you either later on today or tomorrow. Bye for now.